Okay, this is a video response to The Amazing Atheist. I totally agree with what you said in your video about atheism. It is true, it is right, and the proof has always been there. It's just Christians don't care, basically, and religious people of any kind don't care that the proof is there. And what you said about your giant invisible Tyrannosaurus Rex reminds me a lot of these apparent gods as well, because apparently God, or gods, let's pick Christianity, like I say God then, instead of gods. So, Christians believe that, well, they say that God is this very large being who is very, very powerful. He's all powerful. He's got the most power of anything ever. And he is invisible. No one can see God. Apparently you can talk to him, but yeah. No one can see God, but you can't prove he isn't there. It's basically what Christians are saying. And actually, if you want to see something very weird, if you look just there in my video, you can see a face. Right there. See it? Yeah. That's quite freaky. But yeah. But you'd think, really, if God does exist, I mean, let's say the Christians are right for just a brief second, and God does exist. Surely, if he does exist, maybe he would find some way of stopping me recording this video, saying that he doesn't exist. I mean, we all know about Madonna's music video with a black Jesus and everything. I think it's Like a Prayer. There's a lot of religious dispute about that video. So, that face is really annoying me now. Actually, it looks a bit like The Amazing Atheist, which is weird, isn't it? I've just noticed that. No. So, yeah. So, trying to attempt to prove then that God doesn't exist. Well, the only argument I could really offer about the non-existence of God is, and this is basically just to Christians, basically, prove the non-existence of your Christian God is basically, according to the Bible and the Christian religion and stuff, the world was created and the universe was created 6,000 years ago. Well, 6,010 now, apparently, by God. That's the universe, and everything in it was created then in 7 days. And so why then, if all this is true, and all this was created in 7 days, 65,000 years ago, why then have we found fossils and dinosaur remains from 65 million years ago? So how can we have something that's older and from further back in time than the world and everything was apparently created? And we had an asteroid that hit Earth a while ago, a few years ago actually, and it was carbon dated as being hundreds of million years old. But of course then, that asteroid obviously didn't exist and didn't crash into the Earth, because everything in the universe was created 6,000 years ago. So 100 million year old rock would not exist. And the dinosaurs that were around 65 million years ago apparently didn't exist then. But we've got the bones to prove it. And of course, really, if you want to prove religion is wrong, or prove Christianity is wrong, the dinosaur argument is always the best one, isn't it? But also, the other thing about the Christian religion is Christians believe God is everywhere. So why then can we only get married in churches? Why can't I just walk out onto the street and get married? Why do we even need a priest to get married? And if you're not religious, why do you have to be religious to get married? I mean, I know you can get married if you're not religious, but it still has religious implications, doesn't it? So, I mean, the whole idea is just weird. And plus, if God is apparently everywhere, that means then he watches me when I'm having sex. And it also means he watches everyone else having sex. And also, if God is everywhere, he can see little kids when they're in the bath, or when they're naked, or whatever. So if God does exist, he's technically some kind of paedophile and a raving pervert. It's like Santa Claus. I mean, Santa Claus doesn't exist, but we believe that he does up until a certain point. And like the Tooth Fairy, we believe the Tooth Fairy exists until we reach a certain age. And does that face look better now? I'm not the only one who can see a face here, am I? Yeah. See, you see that face right there? See? There's his eyes. There's his beard. Yeah. One of them little bears that just go around here. Looks a bit like the Amazing Atheist, actually. It is uncannily similar. Yeah, so, yeah. And it's like, I do say, it is like the Amazing Atheist said. The proof is there. You just have to believe it. It's like the X-Files says, the truth is out there. And talking about things being out there, we found traces of extraterrestrial life. Now apparently then, if God created the universe and everything in it, we should have known about aliens from the start. Really? Unless you're thinking along the lines of, oh, God created all this, but didn't want us to know aliens were around for a while, and wanted us eventually to discover them. And also that if God exists, surely he'd want to step in now and stop us wiping out all the animals and chopping down the rainforests and, maybe he should have stepped in during World War One and World War Two and everything and stopped us all killing each other. I mean, that's an awful lot of people who have apparently gone to hell. Which is another thing. Apparently the earth is between heaven and hell, implying that the world is flat. But we all know that the world is round. And also, even if you don't believe in God, it sort of intrudes on our everyday life. Like you can't get married unless, it's in the house of God. And also, like, if you're taking out car insurance, you might not be covered for acts of God. And you could say to that person, what do you mean an act of God? And they'll go, well, I don't know. And there you go. And sure, doesn't the word faith actually basically mean a belief in something which may or may not exist? Which also describes a certain religion. I think it's the agnostic religion. One religion basically states that God exists or he might not exist. Yeah. Sort of like saying, your guess is as good as mine, Each to their own. But really, the proof that God doesn't exist is there. Just like the proof that UFOs and ghosts is there. I mean, the proof that ghosts and aliens exist is there. And the proof that God doesn't exist is there, just like we all know there is no Santa, and there is no such thing as a tooth fairy. And, so really, arguing the toss and saying religion is right, or basically saying Christianity is right, because this guy we're talking about is obviously a Christian, isn't he? But arguing the toss and saying Christianity is right is just a bit arrogant, really. And I don't think your God would want you to be arrogant. Then again, God doesn't exist, so he doesn't give a shit. I mean, there's a simple test to see if God is there. You just ask him, don't you? Yeah. Then again, I don't know how I don't believe in the existence of God. So I don't know whether, even if I could ask him, or did ask him, whether he would actually reply anyway. Or whether he'd be like, you don't believe in me, so fuck off. But then that's implying that I do believe in a God when I don't. But let's give it a quick test. God, if you do exist, give me a sign. Nothing. And there you go. But it's easy for me to sit here and say that. But how many people have prayed and prayed and prayed for God to do something in their life, and it's never happened? I mean, I've never been a religious person, and I've always seen myself as the devil, which would imply, yes, I do believe in religion, because you can't be a devil without a God. But I don't believe that's true. Yeah. Bit weird, I know, but, And again, considering nowadays people can't even spell the word demon correctly. Yeah. I mean, you might have noticed that my username on YouTube is Diablo666, Demon666. And that's not just because I love the game Diablo, or the number 666, or that I claim to be the devil, or that I'm sticking it to religion, but it's also to accentuate the fact that demon is meant to be spelt with an A. So it's sort of thrown out there. We build churches. We have churches built all around the world for religions, but we're not allowed to build buildings just for any reason, really. I mean, I can't build a building to worship Santa Claus, because no one would, on moral grounds and everything, no one would believe that to be a good thing to do, really. They were like, you got a building to commemorate Santa Claus, you idiot. And it's exactly the same with religion. You've got a building to worship something that isn't there, you idiot. And also, doesn't one of the 10 Commandments state that we're not allowed to worship anyone else? Or people, or whatever? We worship celebrities, sort of. So we're all going to hell, apparently. And all the other religions, their people are going to go to hell, because according to Christians, you're not allowed to worship any other god. And we can argue the toss about whether Jesus died on the cross or not, and then was resurrected and fed the 5,000 with 5 loaves and 2 fish, and all this other shit. We could argue the toss about that for days, weeks, months, hours, years, sorry, days, weeks, months, hours. But it's like the Amazing Atheist said, it's whether you believe it or not. And so there you are. So atheism is correct.